Ladies and gentlemen, we kindly request for everyone to stand up for our national anthem, Negaraku, and Wawasan Serta Warga UiTM. Ladies and gentlemen, you can now be seated. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to Yang Berbahagia Tuan Haji Kamaruzzaman bin Othman, Director General of Malaysian Timber Industry Board, Yang Berusaha Puan Roslina Idris, Deputy Director General, Development and Commercial, Malaysian Timber Industry Board, Yang Berbahagia Dr. Wan Tarmizi bin Wan Arifin, Director of Forest Product Division, Forest Research Institute of Malaysia, Yang Berbahagia Profesor Technologist Dr. Norazah Abdul Rahman, Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Research and Innovation, UiTM. Yang Berbahagia Profesor Dr. Noritawati Muhammad Tahir, Director of Research Nexus, UiTM Renew. Yang berbahagia Profesor Technologist Dr. Muhammad Rozi Ahmad, Deputy Dean of Academic Affairs, HEA Faculty of Applied Sciences, UiTM. Yang berbahagia Profesor Technologist Dr. Muhammad Nazip Suratman, Advisor of ICWEP 2022, and Dr. Siti Rafidah Abdul Karim, Chairman of ICWEP 2022. And distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to wish you a warm selamat datang to all to the International Conference of Wood and Eco Products ICWEP 2022. I'm Azrina Abdul Karim, your MC for today. Before we move on with the proceedings of the day and to seek the blessings of the Almighty to grant us a smooth, conducive atmosphere for this conference, we invite Encik Muhammad Ammar Kaizwan to recite the doa.
الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم إنك الخلاق العظيم إنك سميع عليم إنك الغفور الرحيم إنك رب العرش العظيم إنك بر الجواد الكريم. اللهم إنا نسألك سلامة في الدين وعافية في الجسد وزيادة في العلم وتوبة قبل الموت ورحمة عند الموت ومغفرة بعد الموت. اللهم هاونا في سكرات الموت ونجاة من النار وفي الحساب. Ya Allah, Engkaulah yang mempunyai segala kepujian, Engkaulah yang berhak menerima segala kepujian, Engkaulah yang berhak menerima segala kesyukuran. Engkaulah yang memiliki segala pemerintahan, di tangan Engkau segala kebajikan. Allahumma ya Karim ya Rahim, cucurilah rahmat dan rahimmu ke atas majlis program pada pagi ini, ya Allah. Ya fa'alul lima yurid, Rabbana alai tawakkalna wa ilaika anabna wa ilaikal masir. ربنا أتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
And also, selamat datang to Datin Bahirah Tajul Arifin from Malaysian Bamboo Society. Thank you, Amma. Ladies and gentlemen, ICWEP 2022 provides a premier interdisciplinary platform for researchers, practitioners, and educators to present and discuss the most recent innovations, trends, concerns, and practical challenges encountered in the fields of wood science, engineering, eco-products, supporting the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, and environmental, social, and governance, ESG, global calls. With 70 papers presented on 4 main topics under the sustainability and green community theme, this conference is timely in addressing the challenges in the wood and eco-product-based industries. Indeed, it's a good start for more research and discovery activities about wood and eco-products by UiTM researchers. This conference is energized with the collaboration between the Eco-Technology Program, Faculty of Applied Sciences, UiTM, Research Nexus, UiTM Renew, UPM, and the Malaysian Timber Industry Board, MTIB. With that, it gives me a great pleasure to call upon Yang Berbahagia Profesor Technologist Dr. Muhammad Nazip Suratman from Eco-Technology Program, Faculty of Applied Sciences, UiTM, to deliver his welcome remarks. If you would do us the honor, Prof.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Yang berbahagia Tuan Haji Kamaruzaman Usman, Director General, Malaysia Timber Industry Board, MTIB. Yang berbahagia Profesor Teknologis Dr. Nur Azhar Abdul Rahman, Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Research and Innovation, UiTM. Yang berbahagia Puan Roslina binti Idris, Deputy Director General, Development and Commercial, MTIB, Profesor Dr. Nuritawati Muattahir, Director of Research Nexus, UiTM, Office of Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Research and Innovation, UiTM, Yang Berusaha Dr. Siti Rafidah Abdul Karim, Chair of the Organizing Committee, distinguished guests, speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Alhamdulillah, let us extend our sincere gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for the opportunity to be here today for the International Conference of Wood and Eco-Product 2022 ICWEP. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome distinguished guests, keynote speaker, conference participant to the conference, and selamat datang and welcome to the conference and to Shah Alam City of Orchid. We are truly honored. We are truly honored to have all of you here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, the International Conference of Wood and Eco-Products, ICWEP, is hosted by Eco-Technology Program, Faculty of Applied Sciences, UiTM, in collaboration with the Malaysian Timber Industry Board, MTIB, supported by Research Nexus, UiTM, Renew, the Office of Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Research and Innovation, UiTM. Thank you, Yang berbahagia Tuan Haji Kamaruzaman Usman, the Director General, MTIB, and Yang berbahagia Profesor Teknologis Dr. Nur Azhar Abdul Rahman, Vice-Chancellor, Research and Innovation. Your presence here shows your strong commitment and support to this conference. Thank you. I would like to thank the team of organizing committee, chaired by Dr. Siti Rafidah Abdul Karim, who has been working tirelessly around the clock, supported by Associate Professor Dr. Rizami Sharudin, Dr. Rafi'ah Legino from Research Nexus, UiTM, and the team from MTIB and from UPM for making this conference a reality. You have all performed very well and excellent despite facing some challenges and limitations due to some unforeseen circumstances. I must remark that this collaboration effort is commendable and should be continued. The theme chosen for the conference is Sustainability and Green Community, and is divided into 4 conference tracks. Track 1, Wood and Non-Wood Sciences. Track 2, Eco-Materials and Products. Track 3, Management and Eco-Products and Wood Industry. Track 4, IR 4.0 and Advanced Manufacturing Technology. I'm happy to inform that the selected presented papers in the conference, if not all, will be published in Environmental Behavior Journal Proceeding, which is indexed by WOS. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I was made to understand that the theme of the conference is focused on sharing the versatility and the sustainability of eco-products, research findings, and also matters related to the wood and eco-products. I hope that this conference would provide a platform for discussions to explore emerging methods and recent advancement in eco-product research and development. I envision that this conference will benefit academicians, researchers, professionals, and graduate students in fostering collaboration with academia, industry, and the community, which allow them to share and exchange ideas with conference participants. I would like also to thank all the distinguished panelists and speakers from near and far, especially to Professor Gary Bull from University of British Columbia, Canada, for agreeing to deliver a keynote speech. And I wish everyone a best and fruitful sessions and look forward for an engaging discussion. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the goal of UiTM in empowering research and innovation is outlined in UiTM strategic planning document, UiTM 2025. To become a globally renowned university by 2025 is known as GRU 2025. This goal requires a concerted efforts, which include raising academic standards to a global level. Furthermore, stemming from research that can accelerate development is challenging. However, it will eventually benefit society and the economy. I sincerely hope that this session will provide more opportunities for researchers to engage in international collaborations, particularly with the experts in their respective fields. I'm confident that an event like this can help participants benefit one another and will undoubtedly serve as foundation for future research to fly at a higher altitude. Finally, once again, I would like to thank the team of organizing committee for working diligently in making this conference a reality. The time and effort put into these thoughtful discussions will benefit all parties involved, inshallah. On that note, I wish everyone a fruitful and productive conference. Wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Walaikum salam. Thank you, Prof. Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to the screen monitor for a video montage presentation. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great pleasure to call upon Yang Berbahagia, Professor Technologist Dr. Nuraza Abdul Rahman, Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Research and Innovation, UiTM, to deliver her opening speech and to launch the ICWEP 2022. If you would do us the honor, Prof.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Yang berbahagia Tuan Haji Kamruzaman Uthman, Ketua Pengarah Lembaga Perindustrian Kayu Malaysia MTIB. Yang berbahagia Puan Roslina binti Idris, Timbalan Ketua Pengarah Pembangunan dan Komersial, Lembaga Perindustrian Kayu Malaysia, MTIB. Yang berbahagia Datin Bahira, Tajul Arifin, bagi pihak Presiden Malaysian Bamboo Society, Dr. Wan Tarmizi, Wan Arifin, Pengarah Bahagian Keluaran Hutan, Institut Penyelidikan Perhutanan Malaysia, FRIM. Yang berbahagia Prof. Dr. Nuritawati Mat Tahir, Pengarah Research Nexus UiTM. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Muhammad Rozi Ahmad, Timbalan Dekan Hal Ehwal Akademik, Fakulti Sains Gunaan UiTM. Yang dihormati Profesor Madya Dr. Rafiah dan juga Profesor Madya Dr. Rozaimi, mereka daripada Renew penggerak kepada konferens ini yang telah dapat menghasilkan 70 paper yang akan dimasukkan ke dalam penerbitan berindeks by WOS, sesuatu achievement daripada kumpulan ini yang sangat membanggakan. Terima kasih semua. Yang berbahagia Prof. Haji Dr. Mohd Nazip Suratman, penasihat bagi persidangan ini yang merupakan mentor saya. Beliau adalah mantan Timbalan Chancellor Pendidikan dan Inovasi, dan saya menyambutlah selepas beliau. Terima kasih banyak-banyak. Hasil usaha beliau telah memudahkan kerja saya. Terima kasih banyak Prof. Dan yang dihormati Dr. Siti Rafidah Abdul Karim, kawan lama saya sebab saya pun daripada FSG dahulunya, pengerusi untuk ICWEP 2022. I'm happy to see Dr. Siti Rafidah menerajui konferens ini. The Honourable Prof. Gary Bull, Keynote Speaker, International Conference of Wood and Eco Products, Department of Forest Resources Management, University of British Columbia, Canada. Serta para peserta persidangan ICWEP 2022 serta hadirin yang saya hormati sekalian. Bersyukur kita kehadrat Ilahi dengan limpah dan izinnya dapat kita bersama di persidangan antarabangsa International Conference on Wood and Eco Products 2022 pada pagi ini. Terlebih dahulu saya ingin mengucapkan syabas dan tahniah kepada program ekoteknologi di bawah Fakulti Sains Gunaan. Saya dipahamkan program ini baru ditubuhkan setahun yang lepas, dan telah berjaya mengadakan konferens sebesar ini. Tahniah diucapkan. Dan juga Research Nexus, Renew di bawah pejabat Timbalan Chancellor Pendidikan dan Inovasi dengan kerjasama Lembaga Perindustrian Kayu Malaysia MTIB yang telah menganjurkan persidangan ICWEP 2022 kali ini. Mewakili Datuk Chancellor UiTM, terima kasih saya ucapkan kerana sudi mengundang saya ke majlis yang penuh gemilang ini. Datuk VC menyampaikan salam kepada semua dan memohon maaflah kerana beliau tidak dapat bersama kita pada pagi ini atas komitmen lain yang secara ad hoc lah. Kalau tidak, definitely beliau akan bersama kita pada pagi ini. Hadirin yang dihormati sekalian, bagi meneruskan majlis, izinkan saya untuk berucaplah dalam bahasa Inggeris. A very warm welcome to our distinguished guests, both national and international collaborators, to the International Conference on Wood and Eco Products 2022. Welcome Prof. Gary Bull. I know that he's online now from the University of British Columbia, who will give us insights of bioenergy in his keynote speech this morning. Selamat datang and welcome, kata orang tu, to Malaysia virtually. Thank you so much for your presence and support. Allow me to congratulate the ICWEP 2022 team for organizing this year's conference. Okay. We at UiTM always look forward to nurture the UiTM brand of millennials, young, enthusiastic, diligent, highly principled and progressive thinkers who are constantly learning and mindful of current and future states. Hence, I believe that ICWEP 2022 could provide a premier interdisciplinary platform for researchers, practitioners and educators to present and discuss the most recent innovation, trends, concern and practical challenges encountered in the field of food science, engineering, and eco-products. Just now I've seen 4 tracks, very relevant from the fundamental up until application. Very good, very well set for the conference. Sustainability and green community. The theme for today's conference aims to provide us with an opportunity to assemble and disseminate knowledge on topics related to wood science, engineering and eco-products through presentation of research findings and publication of journal articles. I hope to see increasingly high standard in university-led research that are matched with real progress beyond this conference. With widely covered scope of wood and non-wood sciences just now, eco-material products, management, wood industry, IR 4.0 and advanced manufacturing technology shared in this conference, it is hoped that the objective of organizing ICWEP 2022 will be achieved. Ladies and gentlemen, globally, governments and businesses are pursuing their own path to achieve their sustainable development goal. Malaysia's vision of achieving developed nation status via the 2030 agenda marks a development path that balances economic growth with social inclusion and environmental sustainability. Sustainability aspects, including environmental and climate change, are part of the national challenges being addressed by Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, MOSTI, through its policies supporting the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, and ESG, Environmental, Social and Governance. Hence, this conference is timely in addressing the challenges in wood and eco-product industry. I am delighted to know that at least 70 papers will be presented at this conference. Bukan sahaja presented, but also published in an index publication. And this effort supports UiTM vision and mission to be an excellent management institution for world-class research development, consultancy and research publication. Just to share with all of you, in terms of research and innovation in UiTM, for this year's, the academic staff, the researchers, they have to fulfill their KPIs where they have to publish a few papers according to their grades. But everyone has to have 1 papers as corresponding author. Sebab itulah, I'm very happy to see that we will have 70 corresponding authors, outcome from this conference. And in terms of research grant, I have also shared with Tuan Haji Kamaruzaman just now. Alhamdulillah, for this year we managed to obtain 70.3 million research grant. Consists of 31 million from private. For example, Petronas 18 million. So thank you so much. It shows a strong collaboration between UiTM and also from the industry. Okay, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, it is also interesting to see another aspect of knowledge sharing being integrated into this conference. Not only research papers are presented, but eco-products, including wood and bamboo-based, textile, art, craft, and are also exhibited in the next room, during these 2 days conference. Well done, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, before I end my speech, I would like to thank the organizing committee of ICWEP 2022 for the dedication and commitment in making this conference and exhibition a reality. Indeed, this is a good start for more research and discovery activities about wood and eco-products by UiTM. To all participants in the ICWEP 2022, I trust that you will continuously seek to catalyze new ideas and present the findings of the research you have worked on. I look forward to your contributions to making a positive change in the field of food and eco-products, and that you find your attendance at this event fruitful for exchanging ideas and making new collaborations. On that note, and in the name of Almighty Allah, most beneficent, most merciful, I hereby officially open the inaugural International Conference on Wood and Eco-Products 2022. Thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Yang Berbahagia Prof. Ladies and gentlemen, Now I would like to call upon Professor Gary Bo from Department of Forest Resources Management,
So are you seeing the correct screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I will begin. Thank you very much, everyone, for inviting me. I particularly want to thank Dr. Nazip Suratman, who was working with me many years ago. And so it's a great pleasure to be reacquainted with Nazip. And I also have very fond memories of working in Malaysia, not only on Nazip's research project in Rubberwood, but also with FRIM and with the Malaysian Timber Industry Council many years ago when I worked at the United Nations. I had the pleasure to work with them on forest assessments in Malaysia. And so I have very fond memories of my time there. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the long journey this time to be with you in person. So you'll have to forgive me for being online. I just want to make sure that if you don't hear me properly, perhaps somebody can feel free to stop me so that we can correct any technical problem. I'm assuming everyone can hear me, and I will continue. Okay, so today's talk on bioenergy starts from my interest at the global scale, knowing that since the beginning really of mankind, we've been using lots of wood for energy. And when I worked at the Food and Agriculture Organization in Rome, we recognized that wood, at least half the use of wood around the world, in almost every country as still for energy. And so it became a very important topic for me in recent years as I saw new industries created here in my country, and particularly in British Columbia, where I live, around wood pellets. So I chose to make that the focus of part of my presentation today. So you can see from the outline that I just want to give you a brief definition of bioenergy and renewable energy, discuss how important it is in terms of the overall energy needs we have on the planet, how I think it fits into the theme of the conference, discuss a little bit of some of the controversies that I'm seeing with the use of bioenergy, particularly in Europe and North America, and then talk a little bit about the scientific and the business propositions with a few concluding comments. So I thought this graphic was a good way to start to show a global vision of where we've come from in terms of our economies and the use of fossil fuels, and the vision of having more and more biomass and renewable energies gradually replacing fossil fuel-based sources such as oil and gas and coal. And we know that this is a long transition period, and we know there's lots of work to do in order to get to our goals. But there's no question in my mind that as an energy source, biomass in particular will be a very important as we go towards decarbonizing our economies all over the world. So what is bioenergy? So the definitions given is that it's a renewable energy produced from biomass through the conversion of carbohydrates in biomass to energy, and it's sourced from any organic matter that is available on a renewable or recurring basis. And you can see that bioenergy is one of 7 main types of renewable energy, with solar, wind, and hydro, geothermal, tidal, and wave being the other major categories of sources of renewable energy. And the reason why bioenergy is attractive is because the features that make it very helpful in any energy systems is the fact that it's controllable, storable, and transformable, meaning you can transform from one product to another. And so we know that, of course, battery technology will change this picture, and that we will be able to see more storage from solar and wind going forward. But the bioenergy is still the easiest for big energy utilities to use in terms of providing a base load from a renewable source. And so where I get very interested as a forester and an economist in this picture, as you see, if we go from renewable energy down to bioenergy from forest, and I'll just focus a few comments here on the left-hand side into the controversies around using primary or standing trees as an energy source. There's not very much controversy about using secondary residues or tertiary residues as a source of energy, but there remains, at least in many parts of the world, controversy about using primary standing trees. Specifically, we refer to it as low quality roundwood or salvage wood when there's slash and debris left from forest harvesting. And so this category of, you can see I've circled and labeled it controversial, and it remains controversial to this day. And one of the ways we are trying to deal with that controversy is through a certification system, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with certification systems like PEFC and the Malaysian equivalent of that, or FSC. And so now we have something called SBP, which is Sustainable Biomass Program, to try and certify that the wood is coming from sustainable sources. And so we refer to that as good biomass. So this schematic here is really important to bear in mind in some of my comments as I go forward. And so I spent a great deal of my time dealing with some of the controversies on the left-hand side of this schematic. So where I live, and I thought I'd just throw in one slide of where I live. This was a typical picture from the past. On the left-hand side, we had something called beehive burners, and they were located next to sawmills or panel mills, plywood mills. And so all of the residue that was not made into wood products was essentially burnt in a big beehive burner, which is that building you see in the middle of the screen on the left-hand side. And so this was completely wasteful. And so government and industry got together and said, we have to do something in order to stop this. And that's how the wood pellet industry, we call it the white wood pellet industry, started in British Columbia. On the right-hand side, you see something that we call slash piles. And slash piles are just harvesting residue, often left over because we have a lot of our forest is killed by insects and disease. And just to give you an appreciation for how big a problem this is, since I've been at the University of British Columbia nearly 23 years ago, we've seen 18 million hectares of trees killed by just one insect. And so with the trees being killed, we end up with huge piles of debris because the sawmills will try and get to whatever logs are valuable to make lumber and other products. But we end up with enormous piles of energy, essentially, that was just not economic to get to a mill, and we didn't have a product. So what we're really working hard on is trying to get all of that residue that you see there in the piles, and we have millions of tons of these piles in the forest today. And we're still trying to figure out how to make the economics work to get those piles into a bioenergy product. So I just want to address two more questions next. One is, how important is bioenergy, and how do the bioenergy fit into the four themes of this conference? So this is a schematic I took from Europe, from the European Forestry Institute. I realize you can't see a lot of the details probably on the screen. I'll just point out two numbers. So it starts at the top with the growing stock of the forest, and then it moves down to how much wood is used in making products. And you can see I've put bigger numbers on the right-hand side of the screen saying 577.1 million cubic meters of wood is available to industry in a particular year from the growing stock of the forest. And then it shows you, if you drill down, this middle part of the diagram is showing you all the wood products that are made, from pulp and paper to solid wood products and so on, and including recycled material and so on. Now, when it comes to the bottom of the diagram, the last third, it shows you energy use. And so energy use, again, I've highlighted that the energy use from the forest harvested is 337 million, 0.7 million cubic meters of wood in a particular year. And so that represents 58% of the harvesting is still going into making energy within the harvesting of the wood. So that's a huge number. We typically at the global scale, we say 50% of the wood harvested or cut in the forest is used for energy. But we can see that in Europe, it's even higher than the global average. So it means that wood, as part of the decarbonization story for the planet and dealing with climate change, wood plays an incredibly important role because wood is sustainable and renewable, and trees sequester carbon as they grow. And so it's very important to see that energy and bioenergy in particular is a very important part of the discussion. And for example, if you take a country like Finland, the major reason they can get to net zero in their emissions by 2040 is because they're using so much biomass for energy for their country. And so I think that's an important theme for me, is that that bioenergy is very much part of the decarbonization story. I also want to show where bioenergy fits into the larger discussion of the conference. And you can see that this is a classification of biomass that we use in the bioeconomy discussion. So we end up with bioenergy, biocomposites, biochemicals, biofuels, and finally next generation wood products. And so all of them are really labeled bioproducts. And at our university, we have a very large bioproducts research institute where the fundamental research is undertaken to help generate the next generation of biomaterials and bioproducts. And it's very exciting to see some of the fundamental research that's going on. I don't have time to discuss that today. That would make it a far too long a presentation, but I'm very excited when I see some of the fundamental research that's going on. And I think our goal is to replace all fossil fuels in terms of making products. And so this is also very much a vision in Scandinavia, and I hope it's the vision also in Malaysia, because so this creates a lot of exciting research and relevant research, and I think going forward, particularly in Asia, to join in. And it sounds like this conference is very much about joining in that discussion in a deeper way. So I highlight just one issue in science that I think when I'm dealing with the controversies that I mentioned earlier, one of the frustrations I have in communicating about the important role bioenergy has is that there's a huge group of people in North America and Europe in particular who want to argue that bioenergy, or using biomass for energy, is worse than burning coal. And so what they do is they use what we call static analysis, or one point in time analysis. I'll show you an example of that. And then I want to show you something, and hopefully some researchers in the room today will be participating in the broader discussion, and I think the more appropriate methodology called life cycle analysis. And I'll show you a couple of slides on that. So this is a slide used often by the critics of the bioenergy industry, showing that wood, in this particular diagram, is emitting more kilograms of CO2 per kilowatt hour than any of other fossil fuels, including natural gas, gasoline, kerosene, and diesel, and so on. And so the automatic reaction then is to say, well, why burn wood when you have this much emissions? Now, I want to show you on the next slide that what they do in creating this kind of graph, number one is they will use very low technology analysis. So let's say a fireplace, and you can see that the pounds of particulate per year is 3,528 pounds in a fireplace versus, say, a modern pellet boiler, which is down at 2.29, that you also see illustrated here on this graphic. So if I'm creating this graphic, of course, I'm going to go for that big ball to try and make wood look as bad as possible, rather than introducing the role that technology, the important and vital role technology plays in trying to reduce emissions from wood. And so, therefore, I would argue for life cycle analysis to be the appropriate methodology to use. And you can see that in this graphic from Germany, it's very interesting that at the top of the chart is wood not sustainable, basically with a very no impact, so basically carbon neutral, and that's why it's labeled 0. And then compared to all the major fossil fuel-based sources, you can see numbers. And then if it's from wood that's not sustainable, and therefore leading to, for example, deforestation, then the grams per CO2 per kilowatt hour is the highest. And so, of course, what most people around the world, I'm sure, want is wood coming from sustainable sources. And that's why, again, the theme of your conference is so important around sustainability, is that we want to show that the wood that we are going to use for making a variety of products is coming from sustainable sources. The other thing that I want to show you from an LCA perspective is just that for electricity and heat, then in this research, you can see that compared to fossil fuel sources, biomass from chips or pellets or coal firing or biogas from waste and residues and so on, are all much lower contributors to CO2 to the atmosphere as opposed to any of the fossil fuel-based sources. So there is lots of research out there to support the increasing use of biomass. Okay, so let's get to the business side of things. I realize I'm hopefully not running out of time yet, but the renewables are roughly 14% now of global primary energy supply, compared to both the fossil fuel base as well as nuclear. And so that obviously that proportion of energy coming from renewable sources, and that includes biomass, is increasing. So that to me is a good sign. And you can see that for more specifically for wood pellets, which is where I'll just confine my talk about now, is really to there is a exponential rise almost in the demand for wood pellets. The tragic war in Ukraine right now has made wood pellets even in much higher demand as a substitution for natural gas. And so even this chart is underestimating the current demand that I'm seeing for wood pellets. And these are white wood pellets, which mainly is used and produced in North America and Europe. And in contrast, interestingly enough, Asia and Africa use more of the residue for making more charcoal-like materials, which is very interesting. And I don't have time to get into that today, but it is interesting to see a difference between world regions about how we approach the use of all this low-grade residue. And here you see with wood pellet production globally from 2021, and I'll just highlight three numbers at the bottom of the graphic. So in the North Americas, and this is US and Canada mostly, the production of pellets has gone from 2012 to 2019 from 5 million tons to 12.3 million tons. Asia has gone from almost zero to 5.5 million tons. And countries like Vietnam are very active in this space of producing wood pellets. And Europe finally is moved from 12 to 22. So we're seeing that in this less than a decade, we're seeing a doubling of the size of production. And for the next decade, we will see it double again. So already, for example, Japan is looking at, or US Southeast is looking to produce another 10 million tons alone just for the Japanese market. So Japan, South Korea, many countries are looking to use wood pellets as an alternative to burning coal. And I saw a big announcement, in fact, today for Indonesia. And it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out in Indonesia and what the role of wood residue will be in terms of meeting energy demands. Okay, so the final kind of economic slide I'll show you is just the spot prices of what's going on around the world. You can see that in Southwest Canada, where I live, the prices are something like $266 a ton. And in Vietnam, it's half the price. It's around $146 a ton. But half the pellets we produce is already going to Asia, mostly to Japan and South Korea, and the Baltic prices at $240. Now, some of these prices have doubled and tripled in the last few months because of the war in Ukraine, as people are looking for energy security. So I think you should know that this is a very interesting development and something to hopefully that you can deliberate on during your conference about what role does wood energy and residue play in producing wood energy in Asia, in the Asian context. And so here's a graph to show you just what's happened with wood pellet prices rising from in 100 starting in 2006. This is for the country of Austria. In October 2019, it was at $130 a ton. It's now at $356 a ton. So this is very typical of what's happening within the pellet market in Europe in particular. So there's a lot that I've covered here in a very short period of time, but here's my conclusions. There's an increasing renewable energy. I think we're going to see renewable energy increasing in its share. So, and of course, forests and agriculture will play a very important role in that discussion about how we can increase renewable energy. Biomass energy is very attractive for a host of reasons compared to other renewable energies that I mentioned in the presentation. And biomass energy is an essential part of the larger drive towards a bioeconomy. For example, I mentioned wood pellets. They could easily be transformed into sustainable aviation fuel, which is something in Singapore, for example, there's a lot of interest with the airlines there in trying to shift to sustainable aviation fuel. This experimentation is happening a lot in the US as well. So we're going to see more and more of these wood pellets, far too valuable, frankly, to just burn in a big industrial facility. they will be used for biofuels and also biochemicals because of the and in fact I've had energy traders tell me this, that going forward these wood pellets will be too valuable just to burn as energy. They will be more valuable as a source of chemicals and biochemicals in particular. So I've seen plants in Estonia with that. So that's something else to keep in mind as you're discussing in the next few days. The other neat thing about bioenergy is it can be biomass energy in particular can be used at multiple scales. You can go from your little stove in your house and residential pellets all the way through to one of the largest power plants in Europe, which is in the UK called Drax. And so they can be massive power plants with the same basic feedstock in both cases. And then biomass can be competitive with other renewables. So I think that that's exciting that it's not going to be replaced, I don't think, by say solar and wind, which have a lot more charismatic energy sources, but we will see a continued role for biomass energy. So with that, I will end my presentation, and hopefully that's at least some food for thought for your conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Gary, yeah. I'd like to open to the floor if you have any questions for Professor Gary Bull. No need just yet, Gary.
Hi, Gary. Thank you for sharing an insightful observations on this exciting topic. Can you hear me clearly, Gary?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. You have shown us the increasing trend of the production of wood pellets globally. Yeah, and we're wondering whether, if we look at the future supply, for example, 10 to 20 years down the road, whether or not we will be able to meet with the supply that we have to meet the future demands. Any data on that, on analysis that you are doing?
So I'm working with some PhD students on this right now in Canada. So this is always a big question mark, is how much can we supply? I know, I think you can see that, so it depends on world region that you're in, right? But we know there's a lot of agricultural residue and a lot of forest residue that really does not get utilized. And so I think every country, every area of every country needs to do its own analysis. So I will be doing some analysis in Canada with some PhD students. I've actually done a national analysis as well for all of Canada. And so we have a good sense of how much there is, and it's an enormous amount. For example, where I live right now, we still, of the forest residues in that big pile I showed you, we are still burning like this almost 98% of the slash. It's still not, we have not figured out how to make the economics work to get that to market. Now, if you go to, in contrast to a country like Denmark, you will not find that, right? You will find much more intensive use, and because they're so dependent on bioenergy in Denmark, they will use a lot more of the material. But then they're not a big country like we are. So our biggest problem is transportation distance. That is our single biggest problem, is how to truck some of this 600 kilometers or 800 kilometers and still make the economics work. So that is a huge challenge for us. And but we are looking at it, and we are seeing new plants, and it could be that we, for example, not everything will go to wood pellets. It will go, there's a lot more discussion now around biochar, which I'm sure you know a lot about, Nazip, and I know Frim has worked on this for decades, and I had the pleasure of going to a charcoal plant in Malaysia, in fact, over 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and saw how you could make charcoal for the Japanese markets from using sawdust. And, in fact, there was a Dr. Hoy. I don't know if you remember him. Dr. Hoy? Yeah. So he emigrated to Canada. But so he was very, famous really in his field for his expertise. So, yeah.
Thank you, Gary, for the insight.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, Gary, don't leave just yet because we want to include you in our photo, a group photo. So stay there.
Okay.
I'd like to invite the VIPs to go in front. Together with together with Gary. And then
Sini ya?
yes.
Dia tahu sini.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Kam?
Everybody, all the participants, all the guests, ladies and gentlemen. Yes.
Sana lebih clear tak? Ha?
Everybody can,
Sana lebih clear. Resolution dia.
can we have Amma? Photo.
Dekat je lah. Situ dekat.
Give us your warm big smile, really, Gary. Amma, gambar? Okay. All right. The Siti Rafi, you know? Everybody? Anybody who likes to take pictures?
Boleh memang dia. Boleh pernah dah.